Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie Russell from Planet Drum Music School in London. Join us as we talk to special guests and industry professionals about all things music. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie and Alan at the Planet Drum Music School in London. Today we have a highly regarded professional drummer, regular drummer at London's famous Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, Mark Fletcher with us today. Hi Mark, how are you?
How you doing, Katie? All right? It's nice. The sun's just come out. I'm happy.
Lovely. We've got a few questions that we want to ask you. We want to pick your brains about some things. I'm going to start nice and easy though. I know. Can you take us back to the beginning? Tell us a little bit about why or how you first got into drumming. Nice and easy.
Why? You should
why or how?
Why is not the question to ask? How? I don't know. It's a natural process. I never had any aspirations to be anything or wanted to choose a certain direction. I just naturally, about 9 years old, I started playing. And it was, and I was encouraged. I wasn't forced to do anything. I wanted to join the Navy. I wanted to join the Navy. No. But I did in the end because I did 4 years on cruise ships. So
there you go. Exactly.
So it's just half and half. So I don't know. It's just somebody asked me this the other day about why did you go in the direction of playing more jazz than anything. I said, well, it chose me more than anything because I like playing blues and rock and roll and reggae. Like for like the last 45 years, I've loved playing those sort of things. But so it's not like I'm blinkered or I'm specialist in a certain area, So, but you got to love the music you play and not just know it technically.
Yes.
So I actually early old school reggae I grew up with because I'm from Coventry originally, and that's where two tone started and all that stuff. So I like to experience new flavors, if you see what I mean. It's a bit like my cooking.
Yeah.
It froze. I can't see. Oh, sunlight.
A little bit there. Did anyone else in your family play, or did anyone else in your family play?
My dad did.
Your dad? Okay.
Yes, my dad did, but he asked me if I was interested in it was the drums. Went up very early on, and I went, no, not really. And then about 6 months later, I said I was interested because he sold his kit, But that was typical,
It's always the way.
Yeah, so I managed with just the snare drum for quite a while.
That's good. That's all you need to get started for other things.
I'm trying to remember. It's so long ago. This. We had ration books and things. Any kid, you don't know what ration books are.
What is ration books?
I don't.
It's from the Second World War. It's food, ration books.
Ration! I thought you said Russian.
Russian, all right, a Russian book. They were in Russian.
I thought you said Russian.
Ration.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm with you now.
These new teeth. I'm breaking these teeth in for the dog.
Can you tell us a little bit about your time at Ronnie Scott's? Because you were there for quite a while. Like, what is sort of
31 years.
Wow. Yeah. What is sort of expected from you as a regular drummer there?
Well, at the moment, I got fired 4 years ago, so nothing's expected from me.
Yes.
To stay away is what it's expected. No, I got used to get. I played in Ronnie's quartet, his own quartet. Ronnie Scott, and I played there I started going there in 1978, and then 87 I first played there, and then I played with loads of bands, like really, really. Good names like Leanne Carroll, John Etheridge, Ian Shaw, many live albums there as well. And then I got asked to book rhythm sections for visiting soloists, like singers and sax players and stuff.
Okay.
And Ronnie used to call me up every other week, just say, "Oh, can you fix a trio for this?" Okay, so I did. Did that for quite a few years, and then I put my own band together, quite reluctantly, because every time I see somebody put a band together, they stop getting calls for themselves. If you see what I mean, So I did put a band together called Fletcher's Brew, and we did every week there for about 8 years.
Wow.
The late show, and it's like the graveyard shift, but we start at 1 in the morning. But we used to do the early set at 7 o'clock or 7:15. So we're waiting from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock to play.
Wow.
And so, the state we were in by 1 o'clock wasn't very helpful. No, it was helpful for the music because it was quite anarchic, if you see what I mean. It wasn't the regular. We weren't playing, jazz ballads and things like that at 2:30 in the morning. So there's an audience that was quite well lubricated in front of us, and you've got to keep their attention. So we welled it. I mean, I've started doing gigs with my band again recently. We've done some festivals and stuff, and I don't realise the energy it takes. Jeez, I mean, really, every tune was full on, full on.
Yes.
There was nothing took a down side to it. So everybody, the audience really loved it. They loved the energy and the lunacy of these old guys on stage giving it one. And that was people would just go, what? And he said, I don't normally like jazz, but we had to play opposite quite a lot of people, a lot of names, and a lot of them sat in with us. Like we had the most famous one, Marcus Miller, when he sat in with us, and a load of guys out in the Mingus big band sat in with us, and I was loads of guests, Nigel Kennedy, Gary Husband. It was quite healthy in one respect, but it was good while it lasted, and you just reminded me how good it was. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, pleasure. That sounds like it was a lot of fun doing that graveyard shift.
Well, yeah, because you could do it after whatever gig you did, wherever you were. I used to do gigs in like Southampton or Birmingham,
And then
or,
you'd
or
come back.
we'd make it back before
Yes.
1 o'clock. It's great,
Perfect.
It was fantastic. Sometimes we cut it fine. It's mainly the parking was the problem.
Yes.
But yeah, it hasn't got better, has it? So I hear. Well, last
Yes.
time I played in Soho was with Soft Machine. I did Soft Machine at the Pizza Express, Dean Street, and
Wow.
it
Oh, that's
took
good
me
for you.
ages to park. It took me ages, like an hour and a half to park, and I ended up having to put it in a multi-story. What am I talking about parking for? This is a drum chat.
Yeah.
I know I do go off at tangents. Somebody said to me, I understand now why you play like you do,
Because it's like,
because
yeah,
I just hear something and I'll go for that because
you'll
I
go with
like
it.
that drum. I like that road. I like the look of that road. I'm going there. He said, but we're over here. I said, well, come and join me. It's quite philosophical, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that though.
It's good. Yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
do you have like a dream musician, dead or alive, that you would love to play with that you haven't played with already?
Oh,
It's quite a
crikey.
big question. It's probably a few
Oh,
people.
it's the obvious ones like Miles Davis, Bill Evans. I mean, there's just the list goes on. The thing is, I didn't realize I've actually started to appreciate who I've played with. Like when you
Yes.
put on Johnny Griffin and Dizzy Gillespie, Sweets Edison, 10 years with James Moody, 20 years with Mark Murphy. I mean, a lot of big hitters. I know, and I recorded with a lot of people as well, like Cedar Walton, and I got to know a lot of people, especially through Ronnie's. But I also used to go to New York regularly with Ian Shaw to record and do gigs, and with Leanne Carroll we used to tour all the time, Canada and the States.
Yes.
So it's great mileage under your belt, and you get to meet different areas of the game, like promoters and certain awkward people, but you learn to deal with it.
Yes.
Sort of getting mileage under your belt and controlling certain things.
Yes. Yeah.
Frustrations, really. I'd hate to be doing it now because traveling's not fun. My passport ran out over 3 years ago, and I've not bothered. And I've not bothered. I know normally I've got to be holding a passport because I could go any
Yes.
second. Plus all the crap with the Brexit thing. I used to just arrive and do the New Morning or Le Triton in Paris
Yes.
or Brussels. I used to just get on at Waterloo. Now
Yes.
it's ruined. It's ruined.
Yes.
What's the
And
point of the tunnel?
yeah.
What's
And
the
I
point of the
suppose,
tunnel?
the last, we had 2 or 3 years where we couldn't really go out and play anything with lockdown as well, didn't we?
Yeah,
Um,
true. I was doing a lot of lessons on Skype actually.
okay.
Yeah. I did LA. I mean, I've got a friend in Belfast who's a fantastic drummer, Eamon, and Max in Hollywood, Max Beasley, the actor. I used to teach at a place in the east of London, in Dalston, in the East End, and Blue Studios, which is now closed down this year. And I used to do loads of Skype lessons from there, and I had different guys fly over. I had a guy from Australia, Spain, Germany, and it was great. But now I've moved out of town and I'm down on the south coast, so
Oh,
I've just had a
nice.
couple of inquiries. I know it's lovely. That's why I got the sense. It's lovely.
I'm sure there's
It
lots
is.
of parking down there.
It's easy. The
Yeah.
parking, it's a worry. It's a worry. Doesn't matter what it is. Start worrying. Details to follow.
Yeah. That actually
Least
kind of
problem.
leads on nicely to my another question that I wanted to ask was
Ah,
how, in your opinion, how has the music industry changed, since you sort of
oh,
first started out? It could be teaching or gigging.
yeah.
I mean, especially the last 3 or 4 years have changed things
Oh,
quite a lot. But what do you think's been the biggest thing that's changed in the music industry? Would you
well,
say?
there are pluses and minuses. I mean, I was talking about it with my friend last night, Greg. We're talking about how how awkward it is. The scene has changed. I mean, the gigging scene and the session scene. Um, you got these great qualified musicians coming out of universities and colleges, music colleges, and they've got nowhere to learn their craft on the stage, which is where you really learn it. You learn all the theory and possibilities, beforehand, but the only place to learn is actually on the stage and watching and observing and being attentive, really,
Yes.
to other players and how they respond, how to respond, or how not to respond. There's also how not to do things. People don't learn that. They
Yes.
just learn. Oh yeah, yeah, right. So you've got to make a mistake to learn from it. And I've learned a lot, but I've made so many mistakes. I think I'm going to make some more to learn some more.
That's so true though. You need to make the mistakes and be like, oh, okay, well, I won't do that again, and we'll
Yeah,
we'll change the direction. Um,
you'd think, wouldn't you?
yes, or you keep doing the same thing, hoping for a different outcome.
Because it depends on what you get out of it. If you
Yeah.
enjoy a certain thing, and then and it's part of your psyche, but you can rub people up the other way, but would not realize it, Right? But the gigging scene. Let's get back to playing, right? The gigging scene. the I mean, we were talking about how you could gig 7 nights a week, and we're talking about a trumpet player I play with, Freddie Gavita. He was just saying, "Yeah, I remember when doing your band at Ronnie's, and I used to do. He did 5 gigs in 24 hours. He did 5. I know. Did a session, a rehearsal, so and so, so and so, and finished with my band at Ronnie's, and the 24 hours before he did with my band at Ronnie's. So that was included in the 24-hour cycle.
Wow.
And I used to do 4 gigs a day. 4 gigs or a session and 2 gigs or a rehearsal and then 2 gigs, and it was always finishing with Ronnie's.
So, what do you
Always
think? There's
finished.
just less availability for gigs, or
Well, yeah, there's very small percentage of what there used to be,
yeah,
because well, people aren't going out and spending money. It's just the same old thing. And especially now the internet it's all new
well,
to
I was gonna
me.
say that's a big thing as well. Everything's gone online, and I'm sure that's changed. Like the
Yeah,
teaching, you said you did a lot of teaching online.
yeah, yeah,
As a,
yeah,
you probably would have done it in person. Like,
yeah.
how have you found the online sort of
It's well,
aspect of things?
well, it took some getting used to, because I'm
Yeah,
terrible. Like setting this up was a major event. Um,
you're doing perfectly.
Am I doing all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have I had my tea yet? Have I had my tea yet? I'm not sure. No, no, see. Um, it is a different game now. And people who are really good at marketing, they've got a product. It can be like a mediocre product, but if they're good at marketing, it will
Yeah.
sell. And there's so many musicians that are really terrible businessmen, included, um, who have no idea about marketing, how to sell themselves, because although they're quite extravagant, they're quite introvert as well. So it's like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't talk on the microphone. Oh no, all this sort of thing. You get
Yes.
past that. And I talk too much on the microphone, apparently. Well, I've said too many wrong things on the microphone.
Right.
But yeah, yeah. But they were valid, so I don't care.
I feel
Um,
like it's you can't just be a good or a great musician anymore. I feel
yes,
like
no,
you've got to have
that's
all these other skills
oh yeah,
all
it's
in
expected of
one.
you. Yeah,
You know, you can't just rack up and be a great musician. You've got to, again, market yourself, have a bit of a
yeah,
business head. You've got to be good at doing social media. You've got all
yeah.
this extra stuff as
That's
well.
right. That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
which, if you're like a creative mind, you know, a lot of musicians are very creative. It's kind of hard to then try
Well, you've got
and
to channel
push,
it into that. It
channel
takes you
that.
away from the, yeah, it
Yeah,
takes you away from the music. It does. It take you from the actual creativity. It takes it. You're right now. I've got to do this. But before, you had to get your ass out there to gigs and meet players, and you had to go and see. And that's where a lot of people are missing out on. There's a social sort of etiquette that you don't because I've had people who I've been chatting to before and who've done things, but when you meet them in person, they're quite abrasive. They don't have any actual real life social skills, you know.
yeah,
Or you have a sense of humor or something, or they don't get certain things, you know. Where when they're just typing on a keyboard, you know, keyboard warriors as they call them, you know, they've
yeah.
got loads of
It's very
they have
different.
loads of hello, Alan. Ah, comment ça va? Yeah. You can stop picking your nose.
um, do you have any advice for drummers looking to find gigs or form a band or ensemble? You know, you're sort of mentioning this social aspect. You know, does
Yeah.
that have a lot to play with that?
Well, we can get yourself known more, and you can actually advertise and research. You've got instant, you know, access to any forms of media. You know, it's so much easier now. But the actual live gig scene is different. I mean, you can organise things, but it's you never get the call. Oh, can you do a gig anymore? Rarely, you know. I mean, can
Yeah.
you do this gig? You actually have to organise it and then and then do a group message and do all this newfangled thing. It's weird. Whereas years ago, you used to hang out outside pubs and things like that. There were certain pubs in Soho, and you'd pick up gigs like that, even sessions. I picked up a couple of sessions. I know. I said, "Oh, I've got a session tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Can you do the opening titles of a film?" I went, "Okay." So I had to be there at 9 in the morning. I know I've had, but that was before mobile phones.
Yes.
I know it's hard to think of this. It's before
Yeah.
mobile phones. It's really before YouTube. In fact, before VHS tapes.
There you go.
Hustler.
Crikey.
Yeah, because we've got you know, we'll have some students at the school who are maybe looking to play with other people, maybe start a little trio or something. So
Oh, well, it's just good to have a play. Always get together with other musicians, or whenever you can.
yes,
Even if it's just to experiment, and even if it's something that at first you're not into, because you'll learn something from it. You'll get something from any situation. No matter, I've had to tour with punk bands when they were happening, and then do some ECM stuff and some like sort of jazz and bebop, all at the same time. And you have to put a different head on to do it. So any opportunity to play with musicians, always try and play with people who are better than yourself. Don't get
yes.
intimidated. I know it's easy, but don't
That's
get
a nice point actually. Try and play with
yeah.
people who are better.
Always,
I like
always.
that. I like that. No, it does because it forces you to up your
It
game as
does.
well, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, some people get intimidated. So I've got these messages coming through. I've got a lesson, and hello, I'm reading this. No, go away. See, technology is great, isn't it? Yeah, it forces you to play something that you're not familiar with. Because some people
Yeah.
go into a shell and they're quite intimidated by something that's too not technically, but it's just a genre that they're not familiar with. You know, and I love it. I love playing in genres. I've had to do like sort of orchestral classical stuff, some Zappa stuff, and then I'll play just in a blues band. And the most challenging for me was in the blues band, the simplest
Okay.
thing. See what I mean? It's a different
Yeah.
head because your attention's taken in a different direction, and it's
Yes.
more about the feel and the sound rather than
Can
being
you play the
accurate.
same? Can you play the same thing twice?
I can't play the same thing once. Thanks for crossing that one over, Alan. You know the one. That's a famous quote. I can't even play the same thing once. That was Steve Pierce told me that. Thanks, Steve. I know. I know. I know.
Oh,
I've got
good.
these things. Go away. Go away. It's just sorry.
Um, cool. Okay. Well, I only have one more question, and maybe Alan has a couple of
Oh yeah.
other things to ask as well. But do you have anything that you're working on at the moment project-wise? Any gigs you've got coming up or anything that
I've got
we can share, we can talk about?
well, nothing major. I mean, I'm just happy playing. I don't want to gig like I used to. Not that I have a choice now, but you know,
Yes.
the
Are you
madness.
teaching?
I'm doing a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm quite selective with my teaching. You know, I mean, I've had two messages today to teach somebody, one on the Isle of Wight, one and I always send me videos or audios, and then I'll say yes, I'll be happy to, or sorry, I can't help you. You know, therapist
Sorry,
required.
no help there.
You need a therapist. You don't need a drum kit. No. But I've got a couple of things. I play regularly with a band formed by a saxophone player I played with for years now, Mornington Lockett and Henry Lowther. We played a couple of nights ago, and it's a band that was started by Mornington to pay tribute to one of Britain's finest ever musicians, which is Peter King, alto player, who died a few years ago. And we all used to play in his band at some point in the last 30 odd years. I first played with him in the 80s. And so Peter, you've seen Peter King, haven't you, Alan?
Yeah, I've got some nice pictures of that gig at
yeah, as a bull, was it a Bull's Head, was it?
Bull's Head, yeah.
Oh, the old room, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just playing with him was just like, it was enlightening. And I got to know him really well. I used to hang out. I used to stay over his place in Putney, and he's missed. And he was so respected. Elvin used to go on about him. I've got some recordings we did with Elvin.
Okay.
And everybody in New York knew of him. You know, it was just a big influence.
That's cool.
But I'm doing a few other bands, not many. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Occasionally, I do some deps with people. I like depping, you know, because then I'm just going into a situation and I don't know what's going to be expected of me, but they, you know, I just do my slant on things, and if it works or if they're into it, yeah. But sometimes I've had people give me a hard time. No, that's not how we want it. That's so. Just well, book that person then. But you know, if I've got an input on something, especially like on sessions and things, you know, it's good not to speak up too soon and you know, annoy the producer. You got to know when you can have an input rather than be pushy.
Yes.
I've learned that over years. But yeah, it's about, you know, the final product. It's about, you know, having a positive thing rather than just stating your own ego, you know.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask you about the loops you've been doing with
Loop Masters.
Loop Masters, yes. So that's they're quite popular, aren't they? I mean, people.
Yeah, I've done about 30 albums of different loops packs. And
can you tell us what these packs are?
I tell you? I can tell you. I am telling you. Yeah, I mean, they vary. I mean, the way it started, there's a good friend of mine called Matt Pellin, and he owned Loop Masters, and he came to a gig, and I was doing Ronnie's and with my band at the Late Show, and there was Jimmy Cobb was playing with Ike Stubblefield on organ, and Ike sat in with us, and we played all this New Orleans funk stuff. And this guy came up to me and says, "Oh, I own a label. I own this company. I'd like you to." I just thought it was another late night drunk punter. Didn't think anything of it. I told him this, and he says, "Oh, I must record you. It was right at the front. He was digging it like crazy." And then like about a month later, I got a call to go to a studio in Brighton. They parked my car. They took my drums in. They took me to lunch. And then we did a session, and I got cash. And I went, "Oh, this is good." He said, "Play what you like." And then I did some, and they made loops out of wherever I played, and it actually morphed into when we started recording at Echo Zoo in Eastbourne. It's a great studio. It morphed into this thing where I'd select, or between us, we'd select like a playlist, and we'd get the vibe off a track rather than me just playing cold to a click. You know, so I'd play all the like the Steely Dan stuff or some so like that, and get these grooves down, and some hip hop stuff and reggae. I put loads of Toots and Maytals down, but I'm the only one listening to the track. So it's all, you know, and I've done about 30 of those. And there's some really good ones, some good trip hop stuff and old school rock and roll.
Oh, cool. So people can buy these loops to use in their own music.
That's it. and they come with one shots. They come with fills and different BPMs and all that, and they've all the different sort of genres you can think of.
Mm.
Well, I mean, really, and because the studio had like 20 odd vintage kits, and I could pick
Wow.
each
Nice.
24. Yeah, I did a
Strong.
Bonham one, which sounded mega, massive sound, and then but the old school blues, really old school blues, like Muddy Waters sort of things,
Mm.
and and you can write songs from that, and they're
Oh,
editable, and they buy the pack. I just get a small percentage on the sales, but they buy the pack, and it's royalty free, so they can just use what they
so
want.
then they put
There you
songs
go.
out, and it's got you on the drums.
Yeah, and it's got ballads. It's got it's quite frantic stuff. But you could the other thing, when I first started doing it, I was learning. That well, you're going to put down things that they're gonna use for songwriting, not just
Yes.
not show off like so many all the gospel chops garbage.
Yes,
No,
it's just like someone,
you
someone
got to
like
play
me who
music.
sat at the computer, but I can't
Yeah.
program drums. It's going to sound absolutely terrible. So it's
I got a session came through last year, and it was somebody a producer I hadn't worked for about 25 years. And he says, "Oh, I was going to program drums for this album. It's the last thing to go on the album. There's the orchestra's gone on, the choir, all the rhythm
oh,
section."
nice.
So I went to Livingston, and there was a nice old Ludwig kit there. I just walked in, went, okay, headphones on. He didn't say who it was. He's just looking at me, almost like expecting some reaction. And all of a sudden, yeah, the orchestra starts. Okay, right. I got the chart. I play it, and then all of a sudden it's Cliff Richards, Aled Jones, and Russell Watson singing Christmas songs. And he's going, sorry, sorry. And I went, because you knew I'd again, you're taking the, So that was the whole album, 2 hours done.
Wow.
Wow, that's quick.
In and out. Oh yeah, you got to do it.
Well,
I did
we'll make sure we get the link for these loops,
Loop
and
Masters. Well, if you go to
we'll
Loop
put it
Masters,
in this podcast, so
oh
people
yeah,
can go and buy them and go and use them and have you on their songs.
perfect. If you go to Loop Masters and then search within Loop Masters Mark Fletcher, you'll come up with a list of stuff.
Ah,
Cool.
perfect.
I've
That's
got
it.
one more thing I'd like to talk about. It's Elvin Jones. I know you knew him, and I know
Yeah.
you know a lot of great drummers, but Elvin is really missed by a lot of us. So just tell us a little bit about how you got to know him, and I know you got a sweaty T-shirt from him. I know that.
I've still got it. I saw it yesterday. I've got it in a bag, and
Yeah.
He gave me his sweaty T-shirt that he wore on stage straight after the gig, and I put it in a carrier bag, and I thought I'd lost it. This is like 20-something years ago, and it's a bit gamey.
I was going to say, does it smell?
It's a bit ripe. I really wanted to wear it, but I'm just it's Elvin's DNA's in it. I can't. This is like it's like oh. God, I can't. And he signed symbols for me, gave me sticks, he did all sorts, and I got to hang with him quite a few times. He was just massive heart, and he's. I can't really repeat some of the stories, but he's yeah. His wife was lovely, Keiko. She was lovely. Not many people got on with Keiko because she was a tough nut. She had to be his wife, but
She was helping him on the road, yeah.
oh yeah. Well, she used to set all his drums up and then nail blocks of wood in front of the bass drum on stage with hammer and nails. Every gig. She was great. She'd tune his drums up, and then he'd come on, and then he'd just go, oh, and then retune them or crank up. He'd crank them so tight.
Right.
I know. I mean, he's still an influence. I've said this one phrase to 3 people, and I said I said it to Elvin, Bill Stewart, and Steve Gadd, and I said you've been a constant inspiration for so many years. Like since the '70s. And these guys, when you get to know them, there's no barrier when you actually sort of get face to face. You're not just a keen punter at a bar. I got to hang with them, and then spend a couple of hours with them and stuff like that. But I hate sort of being in a situation where you're gushing, and the people are just going, okay, and they back off, So you got to connect. Like when the same sort of thing. So when I met Vinnie Colaiuta, I didn't talk about drums. I just started talking about comedy or sandwiches, something we have a common ground on, And then they appreciate. You see their face light up when they don't have to go, oh, on that record I did this. Some people thrive
Yeah.
on that, But meeting like Bernard Purdy, Chris Dave, and and you know, away from the stage, rather than when they know that you're an actual player on the same stage, you're doing the same gig. They you get you get a certain respect, or they're more inquisitive. But if otherwise, if first time I went up to Bill Stewart, it was at Billy Cobham's gig, and he'd just been playing up the road, and I saw the gig, and I used to drink a lot, right? And he thought I was going to mug him. I just went, Bill, you know, okay, when he told him, ah. But we had a lot in common because I worked with a lot of the guys. He worked in New York, and I decked for a couple of things for him. I did a couple of things for him in New York, and then we realized, you know, all right, but just to approach somebody, or to them, you're just a punter, or you're somebody, or a fan, you know. But it's great when you get on the same sort of level and you start talking to people, and they open up to you, and you know, and I got to do that with lots of people, lots, you know, some real favorites. My biggest regret is when I was at the Village Vanguard in New York in mid-80s, and I got to see Tony Williams, my hero. And Tony Williams, and he came off stage, and he wasn't that tall. He was quite a little like that, but he was annoyed at somebody. And I've spoken with all of his band who were doing that gig, and he said, yeah, he used to get annoyed when people took pictures. I wanted a photograph with him, but I sensed that I did. You know, it's my hero. You know, imagine, you know, your biggest hero, your biggest film star, and you go, you're 2 feet away from them. I'm going, I was so wet in my knickers. You know, it's ridiculous. But you know, there's a couple of regrets like that. You know, I've just been near. It's like they say, never meet your heroes. You know, because sometimes I've seen people who you really admire, then you get to meet him. God, he's an asshole. You know, and then it taints all of the things you loved about what they've done. You know, I know it's the other way around with me. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah, everybody thinks I'm an asshole, but when you get to know me, I'm all right. Sorry, I had to go.
Love it. Cool. I don't really think that's all of the questions that I have today, and we're running out of time now, so I'm going to have to leave you to it. But thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We're going to get this up very soon, and I'll link all the Loopmaster stuff so people can get you on their songs. That sounds really fun.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Kate.
Thanks a lot, Mark.